couple of months now since Nathan Vasquez officially became Multnomah County District Attorney. He defeated the incumbent and his boss at the time, Mike Schmidt, in May of last year, winning 53% of the vote. A graduate of Lewis and Clark Law School, Mr. Vasquez has spent his career in the Multnomah County DA's office, going from intern to lead prosecutor and now DA. DA Vasquez, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Good morning, and thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. Well, let's start out talking about a current case. This is Human Tony Ranamoon was back in court this past week. Ranamoon charged with 3 Class A misdemeanors related to the fentanyl overdose death of 15-year-old Lauren Dominguez. He allegedly was there when his son and Lauren were doing the drugs at his Northeast Portland home.
The homeowner comes down the driveway, lets us know that our 15-year-old daughter's upstairs and she's not breathing. She was using drugs with his son, is what he said.
Court documents indicate that he admitted that a few days before she passed, he saw his son and Lauren using pills, saw Lauren crushing up blue pills and snorting it at his house. That's the basis of the case. Why did you take on this case, and why move forward with only misdemeanors here?
You know, Tracy and Mark came to me, and they were really, just calling out and begging for justice. And, this is something that happened about 2 years ago. And they felt like the system really wasn't standing up for their family. And they asked me if I would take another look at the case, if I would do some additional investigation. So I coordinated with my senior deputy, J.R. Ujafuza, and we worked with Portland Police, did some additional investigation, and we discovered that we could charge that case. Ultimately, we weren't able to determine who provided her with the fentanyl, but certainly we looked at Mr. Ranamoon and his role in this death and decided that charges were appropriate.
After his first court appearance on February 11th, Ranamoon was supposed to check in with authorities, but you saw him on the street. So what did you do when you saw him?
Well, I knew at that point in time he had a warrant out for his arrest. And this family, they deserve justice. It's been delayed too long. This needs to go forward. And so, I saw a sheriff's deputy, and I do what I hope anyone does. I took action, and I told the sheriff's deputy, he has a warrant, he needs to be taken in custody, and that sheriff's deputy acted appropriately.
Do you expect to prosecute more of these kind of cases related to fentanyl, where you're not only maybe going after the person who actually provided the drug, but anybody who might have been an accessory or a witness to it?
Well, certainly we're going to look at that and take every action we can. This office is very intentional in not only going after the ones that are out there right now. We're going back over the past few years and looking at cases that have been languishing and saying, hey, can we bring those forward? And when it comes to individuals that provide these poisons to children, we're going to prosecute them every time.
Last spring at PSU, there was a protest against the U.S. role in Gaza. 30 people were arrested, but we find several of those cases have been dismissed now because video footage was not turned over to defense attorneys. So what happened there, and how can we keep this from happening again?
Yeah, kind of an odd case in that, it was one where, the video footage was taken by police. There's a state law that prohibits them from retaining it. And so we certainly asked for that footage from the police. They told us that they didn't retain it and that they didn't have it, so we didn't believe that it existed. We later found out that they had given it to the city attorney's office, who had retained it. Unfortunately, we were unaware of that. Now, I'm as disappointed as anyone that these cases weren't able to go forward, and so I've taken some very direct actions to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
And what are those actions?
We met with the city attorney's office. Immediately we've developed a weekly meeting with them and then put together a very specific checklist of how we're going to proceed in the future when we have cases where this may be an issue. And I'll say this is, these are very few cases, just a fraction of what we do in the district attorney's office. And so I don't expect this to be a problem again, but I certainly am going to take every action I can to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
President Trump's immigration crackdown is well underway, and the president has threatened to yank federal funding from sanctuary jurisdictions, which Multnomah County is. Are you concerned about that at all?
Absolutely, and in a couple of different ways. First and foremost, I'm worried about the families that this may affect in our community. And when it comes to my office, these are victims, witnesses in our cases, and we want them to come forward. We want them to be participants in the justice process. So I've been going out into the community and talking to community groups like Latino Network to say very directly, this is a sanctuary city, county, and state, and we want to do everything we can to help those families.
What would you or could you do if ICE agents show up at a courthouse to detain or deport a witness or a defendant?
Well, the law is pretty clear. One is we can't interfere. We can't step in and tell them not to do that. But at the same time, we're not going to be proactively reaching out to them. We are not going to be providing them with names, and we're not going to be giving them access unless they have a warrant, which is the state of the law.
How has the defense attorney shortage affected your office, and can you do anything from your perspective to help with that?
Well, one of the first things is, Ken, I don't call it a defense attorney shortage. You know that. I see this much differently, and I've been very vocal because this is affecting thousands of cases in Multnomah County and thousands of victims. And it's one where I believe that there needs to be reform and change, and I'm working right now with a large coalition of defense attorneys, judges, and other prosecutors to bring forth some legislation to reform this matter, because this has been happening for too long, and we haven't seen the change that we deserve in this community. We've put in hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're taking less cases. This needs to change now.
So you say it's not a shortage. How would you characterize it?
I would call this a mismanagement and contract issue. So, in 2022, we saw this change in how defense services were provided. And it was at that point that all of a sudden we had a crisis. So the state legislators stepped in. They put in several $100 million more dollars. The crisis has only gotten worse. So while we've seen certainly more money invested in the system, we have not seen any results. And why I say it's not a shortage is that, at least in Multnomah County, we have more defense attorneys than we do have prosecutors. Now, there may be a shortage for some of the smaller jurisdictions throughout the state. That does exist. But here in Multnomah County, that's not the issue.
During the campaign, you said if someone is breaking the law, they should be prosecuted. So is that happening now with things like graffiti, property crimes? What's been the change in philosophy in terms of those type of crimes?
Well, yes, it's happening now. We're being very direct and deliberate about what we're doing. But also, I'm spending my evenings and weekends with a team of attorneys in my office to go back through the cases that are in the office and look at how we can bring those cases forward that maybe didn't go forward in the last few years. So we're working hard to do everything we can to see justice for this community.
Is there room at the end in terms of jail beds in Multnomah County? We've heard the problem with the jail is staffing. So how is that affecting your prosecutions?
Well, it doesn't affect the prosecutions, per se, in the fact that we're still going to be issuing those cases. We're going to be going forward. But do we need more staffing so that we can have additional jail beds? Yes, we do. And the sheriff is working hard on this matter. I've been coordinating with her. I've been very vocal that we need to see this issue taken care of, because the last thing we need is to see a revolving door in front of our jail where people are coming in and out because there's not room for them.
What are your priorities moving forward? What do you still want to get done now that you're in this position?
Still very focused on how do we, really curb or end open-air drug use in our community, and then connect people with treatment, because I do want to see this community get to a healthy place. Really working hard on how do we reduce gun violence in our community, because this is a huge issue that, we've been out of balance for years, and, we've seen some positive changes in that area, but I want to really see that continue and bring that forward. And then, as you stated before, just making sure that we are bringing forward that accountability piece. We're going to be compassionate, but we want to hold people accountable and make sure that this community knows that it has a system that works for it.
DA Vasquez, thank you very much for being here on Eye on Northwest Politics, and good luck with your job in the future. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Next, former Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer had her Senate confirmation hearing on Wednesday to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor. And the toughest questions came from a powerful Northwest senator. We have highlights of Chavez DeReamer's hearing right after the break. We'll be right back.